begin at the start of a brand new month. And with the beginning of each new month comes great things, a chance for change, new beginnings, and new books. How awesome is that? How awesome is that? Do you subscribe to Book of the Month? Book of the Month is an awesome club to belong to. I highly recommend looking into it. I will leave a link below in my description where you can click and get yourself your very own subscription. All the details will be at your fingertips once you go onto their site, and it's just a great, cheap way. Well, not cheap. I don't like that word, cheap. Let's say cost-efficient way to get your book on. Boo, 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 boo. Get your book on. Get your book on. Anyways, don't mind me. All right, so I have just received my package today. When I came back from the grocery store this morning, it was on my step waiting for me to pick that box up like it was a football and dart into the house with it. Super exciting things come my way because I am a member of Book of the Month. So last month, if you will remember, I cut a book cover, and that's all right. It was just a minor repair and it's good as new. But this time I took care not to use that method again. Now let's see the books that I chose. I always choose 3. I like to take full advantage of the cost savings that Book of the Month offers, as opposed to going into your local booksellers and paying the full retail for it. This book I absolutely chose for the look of it. That is, I don't know, something 70s going on there, although the book is not about the 70s. The vibe is very much 70s, and I am digging it. So what do we got here? Tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow, a novel, Gabrielle Zevin. So let's see what it's about. In this exhilarating novel by best-selling author of The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry. Did anybody read that? Raise your hands. I read that, and that book was a casualty to me. It fell in my swimming pool, and let me tell you, those pages blow up pretty darn fast. So in the garbage that one had to go. Do you have any book casualties? Seems like each and every time that I have a casualty, it is either because it took a dip in the pool, or I absent-mindedly left it outside on a lawn chair and it decided to rain. So there are the only 2 casualties that I really have with my books. So back to the synopsis, shall we? All right. 2 friends of 10 in love, but never lovers, come together as creative partners in the world of video game design, where success brings them fame, joy, tragedy, duplicity, and ultimately a kind of immortality. On a bitter cold day in the December of his junior year at Harvard, Sam Masser exits a subway car and sees, amid the hordes of people waiting on the platform, Sadie Green. He calls her name. For a moment, she pretends she hasn't heard him, but then she turns and a game begins, a legendary collaboration that will launch them to stardom. Overnight, the world is theirs. Not even 25 years old, Sam and Sadie are brilliant, successful, and rich, but these qualities won't protect them from their own creative ambitions or the betrayals of their hearts. Spanning 30 years from Cambridge, Massachusetts to Venice Beach, California, and lands in between and far beyond. Gabrielle Zevin's Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow is a dazzling and intricately imagined novel that examines the multifarious nature of identity, disability, failure, the redemptive possibilities in play, and, above all, our need to connect, to be loved, and to love. Yes, it is a love story, but it is not one you have read before. All right, so this is going to be one of those rags to riches types of deals, and I am on board with that. When somebody goes and makes something of themselves, holla, holla. Casey McQuiston, One Last Stop. Sometimes love stops you in your tracks. Okay, so now I did choose this, but I am not recalling choosing this. Perhaps when I made my selections, I was in one of my step out of my boundary modes, and since I typically do not read love stories, romance novels, I do like to delve in once in a while, and perhaps that was my mood. Well, most definitely, there you go, that was my mood, and so we are going to rock with it. For cynical 23-year-old August, moving to New York City is supposed to prove her right, that things like magic and cinematic love stories don't exist, and the only smart way to go through life is alone. She can't imagine how waiting tables at a 24-hour pancake diner and moving in with too many weird roommates could possibly change that. And there's certainly no chance of her subway commute being anything more than a daily trudge through boredom and electrical failures. But then there's this gorgeous girl on the train, Jane, dazzling, charming, mysterious, impossible Jane. Jane, with her rough edges and swoopy hair and soft smile, showing up in a leather jacket to save August's morning when she needs it most. August's subway crush becomes the best part of her day, but pretty soon she discovers there's one big problem. Jane doesn't look like an old school punk rocker. She's literally disciplined in time from the 1970s, and August is going to have to use everything she tried to leave in her past to help Jane. Maybe it's time to start believing in some things after all. Casey McQuiston's One Last Stop is a magical, sexy, bright-hearted romance where the impossible becomes possible as August does everything in her power to save the girl lost in time. Okay, so I heard those words, 1970s. So one looks like a 1970s novel, but is not, and one doesn't really. Well, I guess the colors could be a kind of vibe, but I'm picking up the 80s. Wasn't everything mauve and taupe in the 80s, and hunter green and wicker? A lot of wicker, right? Okay, so I think I'm gonna enjoy reading this one. And then our very last book, I now have mixed feelings about. Okay, I'm not so sure about this, but there's knowledge to be learned, so I'm gonna go there. This says November of 2017, so I am a little late in acquiring this book, but it's all good. Reading Tom Hanks' Uncommon Type is like finding out that Alice Munro is also the greatest actress of our time, Anne Patchett. A hectic, funny sexual affair between two best friends, a World War II veteran dealing with his emotional and physical scars, a second-rate actor plunged into sudden stardom, and a whirlwind press junket, a small-town newspaper columnist with old-fashioned views of the modern world, a woman adjusting to life in a new neighborhood after her divorce, four friends going to the moon and back in a rocket ship constructed in the backyard, a teenage surfer stumbling into his father's secret life. These are just some of the people and situations that Tom Hanks explores in his first work of fiction, a collection of stories that dissects with great affection, humor, and insight the human condition and all its foibles. The stories are linked by one thing. In each of them, a typewriter plays a part, sometimes minor, sometimes central. To many, typewriters represent a level of craftsmanship, beauty, and individuality that is harder and harder to find in the modern world. In his stories, Mr. Hanks gracefully reaches that typewriter-worthy level. Known for his honesty and sensitivity as an actor, Tom Hanks brings both those characteristics to his writing. Alternatingly whimsical, moving, and occasionally melancholy, Uncommon Type is a book that will delight as well as surprise millions of fans. It also establishes him as a welcome and wonderful new voice in contemporary fiction, a voice that perceptibly delves beneath the surface of friendships, families, love, and normal everyday behavior. All right, so they are my choices for this month's Book of the Month picks. Do you subscribe to Book of the Month? If you do, comment below. What books did you choose? I would love to know what your tastes in books for the month of July actually were. I think that would be fun to know. All right, so I leave you with that, friends. But before I go, you know I love you. Be well, be good, and be reading.